Good evening, everybody. Today, we are going to be starting a new chapter at the Astral Academy. I am R the Silent, so close to my face. And today's just gonna be a chapter introduction on familiars, what they are, just some basic information, and maybe where you could find some. Because there's definitely different sources in which you can find familiars, and some spirits will work with you and other spirits won't. So if you haven't noticed, I practice a particular kind of witchcraft in which I communicate with spirits or entities in a way that they allow me to have the gift of either their presence or their abilities and powers. So, familiars. Now, there's a history of the usage of familiars, but most often we see familiars as a physical entity that follows the generalization of what a witch is supposed to be in most modern cultures. So typically, it's like a black cat or a black crow or something that gives off a more eerie feeling with the character's involvement. So familiars have been used for a very, very, very long time. They are not specific to gender, color, or specific animals. So you will see like a dove. A dove could be a signature being for witchcraft you have around them all the time. They come to us typically as family animals such as dogs, birds, rats, stuff like that, and they're there because their frequency or vibration will typically either be a benefit to us emotionally, or because their vibration can also help us with our spiritual needs. As an example, cats have been known to carry a specific vibration that allows them to see into the spiritual realm. So if you ever see your cat running around the apartment or house, it's typically chasing a spirit around that's probably either playing with it a little bit, or perhaps it's just trying to catch it. Maybe it's having that moment of like, I'm gonna catch this thing. Especially with cats, they tend to be very predatory in nature, so they will follow a spirit around and try and catch them, although they typically don't. So they have a specific, their eyes are a very specific way. I believe they have more cones in their eyes, so they're allowed to see into the different spectrums of reality or vibrational frequency. And that specifically makes them potent for a lot of like witches who are trying to do mediumship kind of work, or perhaps something more along the lines of trying to contact a spirit using a Ouija board, or perhaps you can use their energy, and not in a negative sense like stealing the energy from them. And we will talk about energy vampires again as another chapter, but just based on this specific video, you can capture their energy by having them around or petting them during a ritual, and they will release a specific frequency or vibration that will allow them to, it will create a link between our world and a different world, perhaps the one that you're trying to seek into. And witches have had familiars for probably hundreds of years, ever since witchcraft. Even witchcraft was like even popular at the beginning of like Sumerian timeline, or in their aspects they already knew the reality and benefits of herbal practices. So they used a lot of the same like strategies and a little of experimentation, of course, because they're like an early civilization. And even though they had the concept of time, they still knew the effectiveness of having a botanical type of witch or person with that specific profession. Thank you. Thanks. With that specific profession around, because they knew the benefits of having all that kind of knowledge and information for like the rest of history. And as we know, there was a lot of trials, and I believe a lot of error in human thinking about witchcraft and what it provides for people, because they were very afraid, and people are afraid, they make mistakes and they attack based on presumptuous knowledge, or perhaps incorrect knowledge. So, and it's a scene all around the world. I mean, if you go into African culture, there's a lot of praise for animals and beings typically seen as divine feminine love towards specific animals or specific types of creatures that would roam about, whether they're of spiritual astral nature and they were useful to perhaps the voodoo queens of the time period, or even still just practicing occultist. I mean, the validation and usefulness of having the physical presence or even the astral presence of a specific animal or frequency or vibration would do a lot for the progression of whatever witch is using the magic at the time. And there have been a lot of different kinds of witches, like I've stated. I mean, we have botanical witchcraft, which is like having a green witch, and then we have let's see, fairy witches who speak and work with the earth realms, and then you have wizards, sorcerers, sorceresses, witches, warlocks, like anything in between. There's so many different my brain is not working today, my bad. There's definitely different variations of specific different types of magic, whether it be elemental, whether it be spiritual up here. And if we could refer back to the pentacle for a second, and how it is with the star, and each one of the points in the star represent one element, and then of course the upward or downward facing star, depending on your beliefs, would be based in a spiritual realm or spiritual energy, or even yourself. Alright, and we represent the corporeal, primordial energy of the universe in terms of we are literally our own universe, right? And our chemical makeup as human beings is very similar to that of any kind of spiritual or space-relating agents that may fly above or below us, depending upon which side of the earth you are, and all around us. So we literally are stardust. So bringing in all of that kind of different energies, or just singling one out, would be very predictive of what type of witchcraft that may be more relevant to you, that you may want to practice. And beyond that, just as a side note, Egyptians used to keep cats, and they would treat them as gods and goddesses, and mainly as the goddess Bast, and she was a very cat-like goddess, and they would treat them very as divine creatures, and very formally in terms of how to take care of them, what they're allowed to do, which was practically whatever they felt like. So, bearing that in mind, they also did lose a war from the Roman soldiers that were invading them because they strapped cats to their shields, and the Egyptians respected them so much it was illegal at the time to attack any kind of cats. So they lost the war. They seceded, and animals and spirits have been revered and worshipped for a very, very, very long time. And of course, is their relevance to, as servitors, or excuse me, as familiars, they will walk into your life, whether it be a specific animal spirit that you make contact with, and that's relating more towards the Native American side of familiars, right? Or perhaps it's a physical animal, which would relate more to being like a green witch, and so on and so forth. My point being is that familiar magic is real, and it is very useful if you know exactly what to do to take advantage of those energies in a very kind and loving way. Of course, I'm not telling you to go and pry your cat's mouth open for her tongue for whatever reason. I'm simply stating that as a fact of what human beings have known for hundreds of years is that animals have power, and we can incorporate it into our rituals in a practical and safe way that will elevate our ability as witches. But don't just go outside and grab a cat. Familiars are very specific to people, and they give us the how to say this? They give us the I can't think of the word. They honor us with their energies. They honor us with their abilities to help us in the astral realm, and they honor us by simply being animals that require a specific level of care, because if you're not careful with animals, obviously they can pass away. So there is a specific practice to taking care of animals. So that's about all I have for today's video. And I would like to do a video on spiritual guides, the different types, and this will involve also totem animals, which can be something that's looked at separately or part of the specific practice when using familiar spirits and magical practices. So, with that being said, I am Are the Silent, of course. For the few of you that have known me for this long, thank you for gracing me with your presence, which is what I meant to say earlier. That was the exact phrase. And I'm very grateful. Now, today's homework in Astral Academy is help. Help the animals in need that you can find or that you see. And if you don't have the opportunity, perhaps just pay them respect. Whatever way you see fit, right? We all have intuition, even if it's terrible like mine. Just pay respect to perhaps the ancestral lineage of your animals, or animals that have passed away. Bring them flowers, bring them treats, and say a prayer if that's what you want to do, right? Or you can help a bird with its head stuck in a fence, because animals make our existence possible. We can learn so much knowledge from plants and animals. I know some of you have a basic idea, but the practical and scientific applications and the knowledge that animals or plants can teach us can literally save the world. So, that's it for me. I'll be back the same time next week and a different time this upcoming week. So I haven't decided yet. I'm trying to be more consistent in my schedule, but we shall see. And I hope you all have a wonderful night. Alright, bye-bye.